Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. Ladies and gentlemen, training camp is here. Some teams reported last week, some teams reported over the weekend. A crap ton of teams are reporting today. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to talk about some other news today. And most of all, we're talking some football. So why don't we go ahead, take out our coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Now, first things first, I've been out the past week, so I first wanted to go ahead and just shout out everyone that filled in for me. We've got to just give a little bit of a round of applause, a huge round of applause, actually, to Bradley Stalder, Mike Lindbergh, Seth Dewald, the Podfather, Matt Babbage, of course, and last but not least, Kumi Ordine. Thank you so much, everyone, for stepping up for me last week, giving me the chance to enjoy a wonderful vacation out in Boise, Idaho. And I gotta say, guys, I don't know if any of you have ever been to Boise or thought about going to Boise. I highly recommend it. It was an incredible city, but the area around the city is incredible as well. We went to hot springs, we went to rivers, we went to waterfalls, we went to mountains. It's really weird. It's honestly really weird how much there is to do in Idaho. And that is not really talked about. Anytime people talk about, the mountains in the West, it's just Colorado and Wyoming. But Idaho was incredible. Genuinely a very beautiful state. Lots to do. Yes, I ate lots of potatoes, Ryan. In fact, I made it a mission to eat a potato every single day. There's a place there called Boise Fry Company. You can get a bunch of different French fries. I even got an ice cream potato at a place called West Side Diner. It's not actually a potato with ice cream. It is a big ball of vanilla ice cream rolled around in cocoa powder to look like a potato. But yes, I had a lot of potatoes. Even potato pizza I had. But I've got to say, everyone out west or anyone that doesn't live in a humid state, I am so jealous of you. So jealous of you. I was so worried going out to this trip because the weather was like, oh, it's going to be 102. It's going to be 105. It's going to be 107. It's going to be 101. I was like, oh, that's so hot. Oh, I'm going to be miserable. I'm from Georgia. I live in a very humid area. That was the best. That was genuinely the best 105-degree weather I have ever been in. Ever. Their 105 feels like 80 degrees in here, or like 85 in Florida, maybe. Like, it was so pleasant. Like, I was like, it's 105 right now. It feels like spring. I'm out here in jeans, and I'm like, it's fine. It's totally fine. You just got to wear sunscreen, drink some water, and maybe sit in the shade. But it was like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm just in jeans in 105-degree weather, and I'm like, oh, this is just springtime. Maybe it feels like the fall a little bit. But yes, I'm sure the winters are very cold. But even then, I like the snow and everything. I'm just saying, I if you are not in a humid state, you lose all capabilities of being able to complain about how hot it is somewhere, because you have not seen hot until you've been to the humidity. So shout out all my humid brothers, and screw you guys. I get to enjoy the dry weather because it was very, very pleasant. But I did want to say, after Boise, me and the girlfriend, we went out to the Grand Tetons, rented a car for the weekend, went out to the mountains, did some hiking, did some camping. And I just wanted to announce to all of you, the Wake and Take family, my friends, the audience, that I am officially engaged. Woo! It's a very cool trip. Boise, great. Grand Tetons, even better. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Just genuinely a wonderful, wonderful time. So thank you again to everyone that was able to step up for me, to enable me to go on this trip, to propose to my wonderful girlfriend, now fiance Madison. Just wonderful. Just wonderful. I'm on cloud 9. We're talking football. We can move on from my wonderful trip, but I just wanted to share everything with you guys. And yeah, I'm just feeling great. Just a good time. So anyway, that's that stuff. I see a lot of comments now. Hopefully there's some congratulations. There we go. So thank you. Yes, so very much congratulations. Very, very happy here. And going back to real life kind of sucks. But It's also very fun. Who doesn't love talking football? And that's what we're going to do. But before we get into all that, I did just want to let you guys know that the Player Profiler Draft Kit did come out while I was away. And it's just some incredible stuff. So why don't we listen a little bit about that draft kit?
Hey, it's the Podfather of great news. The draft kit is live. It is world famous. Why? Because it is the best resource for winning fantasy football championships that exists. There are rankings and cheat sheets for every format you can imagine. We have projections both at the team level and the player level. And wherever you are, you can click on a player, open them up, and see in-depth written analysis about what to expect in fantasy football from that player this year. And then you can click on the team and you can get even more in-depth analysis, all the drivers of fantasy production, both in a positive and negative direction for that team, including a signature trend. And the graphics are incredible. So these team insights, they give you the team level projections, the vacated targets, the vacated ARs. And we added a bunch of features. I mean, individual cheat sheets for Theo and Billy and Dario. So you could take your favorite analyst and download their personal draft cheat sheet. And then in the commissioners section, Memphis Young lays out everything you need to know to manage a league. The best minds in the industry contributing analysis. It's certainly not the most inexpensive draft kit on the market, but it is the best. PlayerProfiler.com/draft kit. PlayerProfiler.com/draft kit. Go get it.
Go get that draft kit. Tons of work went into it. Theo Greminger did an incredible job kind of spearheading this project. But we got contributions from everyone across the industry on top of all the people you know and love here from Player Profiler. Genuinely some incredible stuff about all the players really that you're going to be looking at to drafting this redraft season. So go get that draft kit. And if you want to get the entire Player Profiler all-in package, you can use promo code Jason for $20 off that whole thing. That'll get you more than just the draft kit. That'll get you access to every single tool on Player Profiler, which is also just incredible. So go check all that stuff out, guys, and let's talk ball. Before we get into the training camp stuff, I did just want to share with you guys, and I'm sure you've seen now, that Aaron Rodgers had some funny stuff happen to him over the last couple days. I think it might have just been yesterday. But the NFL Top 100 list has, started to release from last season. And somehow Aaron Rodgers found his way onto the list. He is the 92nd best player from the NFL season last year. You kind of understand, right? It's Aaron Rodgers. He's at the end of his career. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. So, the players vote for him and stuff. But it's like he played like 5 minutes. And obviously, of course, injuries are a big part of that. And that's why he wasn't able to be out there. But it's like, really? Like, we couldn't just let someone else make the list instead of Aaron Rodgers. Very excited to see what they use for the little highlight clip. Is it just going to be him running out with an American flag? Is it going to be the injury play? I mean, I'm just shocked to see him make the list. Very interesting stuff from the NFL here. And I guess also congratulations to Aaron Rodgers. That's just a quick aside. I wanted to talk about that real quick. But what you guys are really here for is the training camp news. And guys, it's here. Training camp is here. July 17th, the Houston Texans reported to camp. July 19th, the Chicago Bears reported to camp. July 20th, the Ravens and Chiefs, they reported to camp. On the 21st, the Packers reported to camp. So we have those 5 teams, already have some stuff out there that we'll be talking about here in a bit. Today, though, a ton of teams are reporting to training camps all around the league. So many to name, so put on your ears. Cardinals, Bills, Panthers, Bengals, Browns, Broncos, Lions, Jaguars, Raiders, Chargers, Rams, Dolphins, Vikings, Patriots, Saints, Giants, Jets, Eagles, 49ers, Seahawks, Buccaneers, Titans, and the Commanders are all reporting to training camp today. So make sure you just go turn on some tweet notifications from the 32 beat writers. Turn on your tweet notifications for really all of those NFL teams, as there's going to be stuff pouring in about players that we love on those teams starting today. And of course, throughout the rest of the week. Not too much to talk about on players from a lot of those teams yet. We have a couple things to cover, but most of it's just going to be like injuries and stuff like that. But yeah, those teams are reporting today. And tomorrow, the rest of the league will be reporting. That is only the Falcons, Cowboys, Colts, and Steelers kind of rounding this thing out. So really exciting news. This is really the point of the year that we're all waiting for as fantasy football enthusiasts. We're finally going to get to learn a lot of stuff about depth chart, about how players are looking. We're going to get the highlight clips. It's awesome. It's really a great time of year. So I do have some highlight clips to show you so far before we get into like some of the insights and stuff that we're learning, because who doesn't just love looking at some highlight clips? So we'll start with the first one that kind of popped up on everyone's timeline. This was, of course, the Xavier Worthy catch from Patrick Mahomes. It's, I feel like the term highlight is going to be loosely used throughout the next couple of weeks just because we're starved for football. But either way, here's that highlight. It's just cool to see these connections already being established and built. So, of course, you get Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things, rolling out, chucking it deep. Beautiful spiral, you know the thing. And then Xavier Worthy catches it while falling into the end zone. Nice little touchdown. And that is actually just what we're hearing about Xavier Worthy in general from this camp. In fact, I'll just go ahead and talk about the Xavier Worthy news while I'm on it. As we know, Andy Reid has a very, very tough regiment, if you will, for the Chiefs training camps and really throughout his entire career. He does really push his players. And so Xavier Worthy is not being eased in at all. Like, he is being asked to be a veteran, essentially, continuously getting reps at camp and continuously showing up. 32 beat writers tweeted out from one of the Chiefs beat writers this quote: "Quarterback Patrick Mahomes was correct when he said there would be no easing into camp for rookie receiver Xavier Worthy. The best way to summarize the day for the Chiefs' first-round pick is Worthy had repetition after repetition after repetition with the first-team offense. He did well with the workload, too. Worthy ran a variety of routes, short, intermediate, and deep, throughout Sunday's practice, catching the majority of the targets he received from Patrick Mahomes." Incredible, incredible news. Literally everything you want to hear, especially after the minor injury scare that we had from him earlier this offseason. To see him already out there getting rep after rep after rep and continuously showing up, making connections with Patrick Mahomes, that is everything you want to hear, especially to already get a highlight clip from him. That is even more and more exciting about Xavier Worthy. So again, we all know it. These Chiefs wide receivers are all values right now. We have been screaming it from the rooftops. Yes, even Rashee Rice is a value. And I know that they've been steamed up. Hollywood Brown himself too. But you're talking like 7th, 8th, 9th round for these guys. And they are catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. And I don't care. I don't care what type of volume that may mean on a week-to-week basis. The spike weeks will, of course, be there for these players, and especially for the rookie first-round wide receiver that is just uber speed, uber talented. Very, very excited to see this guy's rookie season, and just great to hear that he's already getting a ton of reps with the first team and already building and establishing a connection with Patrick Mahomes. And as an aside, while we're here, Marquise Brown is reportedly doing the same. There's just not really a video out there. On the first day of practice, Marquise Brown was targeted twice, brought in both of those targets. So that's also really, really good news. Rashee Rice was the most targeted Chiefs receiver throughout these training camp practices. I believe he had 5 targets or something like that in the actual like 11-on-11 practices, which just again shows that Rashee Rice is Patrick Mahomes' favorite wide receiver target outside of Travis Kelce, and also again probably shows that Rashee Rice is not going to be suspended really at all, at least this season, as I doubt that the Chiefs would be force-feeding him at training camp if they're not expecting him to be a big part of their game plan this season. So again, I just say draft those Chiefs receivers. Another fun highlight that came out was, of course, Jackson Smith-Njigba's one-handed grab in the actual just full 11-on-11, I think. No, this is just 7-on-7. But still, it's still a fun little catch, and so I'm going to show it to you. Here you go. So yeah, basically just going right down the seam. And what's beautiful about this, I'll just go ahead and pull it back. It is obviously, right? This is such a good catch from Jackson Smith-Njigba. But what even better and is not being noted about this play is how good of a throw it is. Only one person can catch that ball, and it's Jackson Smith-Njigba. It is perfectly threaded between the safeties right here, and Jackson Smith-Njigba it just is able to throw his hand out right where it's going, and it's got a perfect amount of zip to it. It's got a perfect amount of lead to it. JSN is able to be there and bring it in perfectly and obviously make an incredible circus catch, but that's not possible without a great pass. And so that does add a little bit of confidence in me for Geno Smith and just all that stuff, which is we have some sort of concerns about the longevity of Geno Smith on the Seahawks. I think at the very least we can expect a pretty decent season from him. I will say I still have some a little bit of a trepidation about the Sam Howell usage just because they did bring him in. But Geno Smith is locked in as the starter. He's going to have to be pretty bad, I think, to lose the job. And seeing throws like this, connections like this with JSN and all of obviously Lockett and DK Metcalf, it just has to give you some confidence, has to give you some excitement. Great catch from JSN. Really good throw from Geno Smith as well. And lastly, we had one more highlight that's been going around pretty heavily from last night. And this is DJ Moore going up to get it. Nice little pass from Caleb Williams. So here is that. Real quick. Shout out Matty Kiwoom for tweeting this for me. Here you go. Yeah, nice little Caleb. This is just a standard play. Like, this is just, again, these highlights and the term highlight is going to be very loosely used over the next few weeks. As again, we are starved for football, but it's still just good to see, Caleb stay within that pocket and step up, make that throw. Great to see the connection with DJ Moore. Some other stuff I read about the Bears camp was that Rome Odunze was standing out. That, of course, gives me some confirmation bias. You guys know that I already believe that Rome Odunze will be the alpha in this Bears receiving room pretty quickly, but especially by the end of the season, I believe he will be. And he's already showing up very, very handily in camp. Keenan Allen is singing Rome Odunze's praises, saying he is so much more polished than he was when he's coming into the league. I think having those veteran presence on top of being a rookie along with his quarterback Caleb Williams is just going to lead to an incredible connection with the two. So I want Rome Odunze a ton, but it's also just good to see DJ Moore and Keenan Allen being kind of worked in as well. And it's good to see Caleb Williams feeling comfortable. We're hearing lots of reports from his teammates that he is worlds ahead of where he was from rookie OTAs, has a really good command of the offense already, and his confidence is completely there. That is exactly what you want to hear about a rookie quarterback, and it's really, really just nice to hear. However, what I'm also hearing from Bears camp is that the offensive line is dog shit. I saw one report from a beat writer saying that if Caleb Williams was obviously not in like a no contact jersey, like if the defense was actually allowed to hit quarterbacks, he probably would have been sacked on every single play. And that is not what you want to hear at all for a rookie quarterback. So the confidence is there, the playmaking is there, but it sounds like the Bears might have a terrible, terrible offensive line this season, which will not be good. That will hurt confidence. And of course, it's just going to make you have less time to throw the ball and just be competitive. And so you kind of dig into it a little bit, and there's a few ways to explain this away if you'd like, but no matter what, the Bears offensive line is going to be bad. Now, of course, what a lot of people are pointing to is that the Bears defense, and especially the defensive line with Montez Sweat, is just really good, especially with how they ended last year. The defense did go on a tear. So, of course, that defensive line is going to beat out a mediocre O-line in Chicago, and it's going to make it hard on Caleb Williams, and it's going to cause pressure and all this stuff. But also, if you just look at the offensive line historically, it's not good. If you go to the Player Profiler offensive line rankings, powered by Dan Fornick's offensive line, just prowess, he ranks the Bears offensive line as the 26th best. That is not good at all. And in fact, if you look at Justin Fields last year, he was 35th in protection rate, which is also not good. That's outside the top 32, worse than literally starting offensive line, right? Like 35th in protection rate is not what you want to hear. 26th best offensive line is not what you want to hear. And you hate hearing reports that the defensive line is just tearing up the Bears offensive line. So I know we're all very, very excited about Caleb Williams and this Bears team, especially for the future, but I do just want to pump the brakes. They had the number one pick for a reason, right? And it's just not going to happen overnight. And so again, I say, and I know it's a hot take, I get it, I really think that you could sell Caleb Williams right now. I think you can get a really, really good return. You could, of course, just downgrade a little bit like a Kyler Murray, a Trevor Lawrence, a Jordan Love, a Justin Herbert, and see what type of cherry you can get on top. It's really nice. Or you could probably just switch him for another rookie quarterback plus as well if you want to maintain the youth. But either way, I do expect Caleb Williams to at least have some growing pains early in the season, especially when you're hearing about a really bad offensive line. So those are all like the highlights that are going around right now. I'm sure that a lot more will pour in. So now let's go ahead and just move on to some news and tidbits that we're hearing right now. And there's really a lot of them. Really, really a lot of them. Let's see. Joe Burrow cleared for contact is the big one. That is the big one here. Remember, though, that while he is cleared for contact, that is exactly what we expected. 100% what we expected, actually, because the injury that he had, as we talked about, is one that generally you can recover from fairly quickly. He is totally on the correct timetable and time frame to be able to return to form. However, what we know about this injury in the subsequent surgery is that it does not. It's not very it's not the best. It's essentially not the best. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to be able to return to form at least long term. So in the study that we read, it was a few weeks ago, only about 30% of athletes that have this surgery are able to return to their pre-surgery form. Now, again, I take the stance that Joe Burrow is going to be on that 70% of things, right? Like, he is just an elite world-class athlete. He's going to return to form. Like, it's Joe Burrow. I don't think we have to worry about him. The big thing we have to worry about is that this wrist injury does carry a very, very high re-injury risk, with most of the people that suffer this injury and surgery re-injuring that wrist within 5 years. And that is just, again, not what you want to hear. So I think that Joe Burrow is an excellent redraft asset, but I am still a little bit timid about what's going on in Dynasty for him. I'm still a little bit worried about that wrist. And again, I think he's going to be able to play at a very high level. I think he's still going to be Joe Burrow. But once it starts getting to, 3 years post-surgery, 4 years post-surgery, 5 years post-surgery, I think we're going to have some worries again, especially given that he's already been injured a plethora of times throughout his career. It's just not good news, but it is good news that he's cleared for contact. It's great that he's going to be good to go this season. It's what we expected anyway, but it's just great to hear that he's already cleared for contact and going to be full go for training camp. Another big story here is that Kadarius Toney on the Chiefs is working out with running backs. And this is interesting because the way I'm kind of reading into it, and you can call me crazy here, is that Kadarius Toney right now is struggling for a roster spot, obviously. So they're working him around everywhere. They drafted, of course, Worthy. They brought in Marquise Brown, and they kind of faded out Toney throughout the rest of the season last year. And so what's concerning to me about working him in with running backs is that they are doing whatever they can to figure out a way to use him. And I think another way to read into this, and again, call me crazy, is that Kadarius Toney might be competing with Louis Rees-Sammet. And I know that sounds crazy, but they are utilizing Kadarius Toney in the exact same way that they've been utilizing LRZ throughout these camps, in running backs, or with the running backs, throughout special teams, random gadget plays. And so it sounds like the Chiefs want a gadget player, right? And Kadarius Toney is, of course, a very good gadget player. But so potentially is LRZ. And so the way I'm reading into this, and again, you can call me crazy, is that Toney is competing with Louis Rees-Sammet for that kind of final gadget role spot on this roster. Now, there's probably going to be room for both of them on the roster. And LRZ might start the year on practice squad or something. And then maybe Kadarius Toney gets hurt and then he takes over. But I don't like hearing that he's working with running backs. Because Kadarius Toney does have a massive injury history. And I see some people saying he might just take on the Jerick McKinnon role. It's possible, but I think that it's going to be a different person. Again, LRZ is doing that same exact thing. They're working with him as a pass catching running back as well. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire at least can catch passes too. So, and Deneric Prince last year, if you remember, he was really good as a pass catching running back in their camps. Tons of hype, kind of built up for him. So, if you have Kadarius Toney, I would not get excited about this news, to be completely honest. To me, this seems more like a desperation play than a creative way to get the ball in Kadarius Toney's hands. Because if they did care about getting the ball in Kadarius Toney's hands, they would have done it, right? They would have just done it, and they haven't. So I think that they're literally just working Kadarius Toney in different roles to just salvage what they can from him. And I know that this might be reading too much into it, but that's where I'm at, because they completely gave up on him essentially last year. He has this injury history, and this is it for him too on his rookie contract. So I believe that they're just doing whatever they can. And it sounds like to me, the way I'm reading into it is that he's actually competing with the rugby star for just a gadget role on this offense. That's how I'm reading into it, at least. And I'm sure more will develop as we learn more from this camp. Another big story is that Joe Mixon is not practicing at the Houston Texans camp, but it does not seem like a major deal. At least Coach DeMeco Ryans has come out and said that Joe Mixon is fine and that there's no reason for concern. And so I'm just going to have to take him at his word for it. Now, of course, if you read into it, you do see that the Texans did bring in Cam Akers, But I think that that's more of a bad sign for Dameon Pierce. And of course, Cam Akers has this injury history, but he still has that second round draft capital. And he has been pretty explosive before. And of course, had that really good playoff run a few seasons ago with the Rams Super Bowl run. So Cam Akers does, of course, have talent, but just has the injury history. So he's not pushing Joe Mixon. Like this, when you see Cam Akers getting signed, it's not a, oh my gosh, Joe Mixon is injured, we need to get Cam Akers move. It's we don't trust Dameon Pierce as our backup running back. We at least need another body in the running back room move. It's not anything against Joe Mixon. So if anything, if Joe Mixon has hit the trade block in your league, if it seems that the Joe Mixon owner is a little bit worried about this, I would swoop in and buy him because he's still going to have bell cow usage. I don't think Cam Akers or Dameon Pierce threatens his role at all, especially as a pass catcher. If anything, they'll just mix in every once in a while. And you know I am a Cam Akers defender. In fact, this honestly has made me a little sad because I have been scooping up Dameon Pierce a little bit just because there was no other body in the room. And it wasn't that, I believed in Dameon Pierce too much, although he did have a really solid rookie season. It was just that, Joe Mixon is a little bit older and he's going to be asked to handle the rock so much that I felt that there would be weeks where Dameon Pierce might actually end up a starter if Joe Mixon missed any time. And so I thought he was a valuable handcuff. Thought he was a good one, but unfortunately, I think that is over now with Cam Akers. Now, the deal is that Cam Akers is probably the RB3 on the roster still. Like, it's still probably Dameon Pierce ahead of him, especially with the injury history. But athletes have a funny way of kind of moving themselves up. And if he is healthy, like we saw, before he re-injured his other Achilles or injured his other Achilles, he did show some zap. He looked better than Alexander Mattison at least, which is not hard to do. But still, especially if you're less than 100% and you have that Achilles injury, to see you be at least okay is nice. So it's Joe Mixon. Don't worry about it. It's his backfield through and through. If you could get him for a cheap price or just even a regular price, then just do it because I don't think Cam Akers or Dameon Pierce are going to threaten him at all. This is just more of a, okay, we're now already picking up a Joe Mixon injury. He's getting a little bit older. We, as the Houston Texans, should probably add another body to this running back room, not named Dameon Pierce. So that's how I'm reading into it, and I think that's the right way to read into it. The next bit of news around running backs actually revolves around the Broncos, and this is a crazy story for me. Supposedly, reports are coming out from some of the beat writers in Denver that Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime are locked into the roster, and that actually Samaje Perine and Javonte Williams are battling each other for that final roster spot. Now, my take is that Javonte Williams is going to take that roster spot just because he's Javonte and he's still on the rookie contract. And last year he was less than 100%. But, it is not good news to hear that, rookie and undrafted rookie from last year are locked in and he's not. Now, Javonte Williams, of course, has shown some explosiveness before his injury, but struggled a lot last year. And that's what the Denver Broncos have seen. So Javonte Williams has to, at least bounce back a little bit to what he was before, because say what you want about Samaje Perine, he is a hard worker. And coaching staffs genuinely tend to love him. They just do. And he finds a way onto rosters and he finds a way onto the field. And so, it's not a lock that Javonte Williams beats him out for that final spot. And again, these are just reports. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if all four end up making the roster at the end of the day anyway, or at least maybe one gets downgraded to practice squad or something. Like, I don't think Javonte, even if he loses this roster spot, is going to go to free agency. I would assume it'd be some trade of some sorts because I can't imagine cutting your losses on, a high drafted rookie that showed some explosiveness before and was just less than 100% because of an injury last year. I think if I were a coach, I would give him one more shot. And that's probably what this competition is for. Like, hey, if you actually can't beat out a Samaje Perine, who's getting up there in age, who of course is good, but not great, then, there's actually probably not a spot for you on the roster because we have some upside here with Jaleel McLaughlin. We have some upside here with Audric Estime. And Samaje Perine at least can fill a role and step in when needed. Javonte, if you can't do that, then we don't want you. And that's fair. But I do think that Javonte will beat out Samaje. I do believe that there's at least a little left in the tank. But of course, this just continues to be my point. Don't draft a single Broncos running back. I don't care. Sure, if you really want to take your swings on Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime for free, whatever. Sure. But what's the point? I have no clue. Like, sure, you could be right. Or you could just wait. Like, there are 31 other backfields to target in fantasy football, and the Broncos are going to be dog shit this season. They're going to be really, really bad. So why would you even want the running back? How about you just wait? How about you see? How about you wait till like week 2, week 3, and then it's like, okay, Jaleel McLaughlin has established himself as a guy getting 55% of snaps. I like his explosiveness. I like the fact he's catching passes from Bo Nix. I'll go trade for him. What's it going to cost you? Nothing. It's still going to cost you nothing, even if he proves himself. So why take on the risk? Let someone else take on the risk and then go trade for him. It's not a big deal. It's really not. Because even if Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin hit, they're still only going to cost maybe a 3rd round draft pick, maybe a second if they are really good, but they're not going to be. They're not going to be. All of their points are going to come from garbage time, if at all. And it's just not going to be good. They're not going to run the ball. I don't want it. I don't want it. I'll touch the other backfields. Don't give me any Broncos running backs. It's way too murky right now. There's no reason at all to try to pick one. There's just not. Jaleel McLaughlin last year, yeah, he was explosive for like 2 games, and then he was faded out the rest of the season. He barely saw the field. So what makes you think that they're just going to be going back to him? Like, I don't know. I have no clue. They drafted Audric Estime for a reason. That's all I know. They're competing with Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine for a reason. That's all I know. But it just sounds like to me they want a committee in the backfield. They don't want one guy. And so why would you want to choose one out of these crowded guys on a shit team? I don't get it. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. You don't need a Broncos running back. There are 31 other NFL teams to worry about for sure. So just don't worry about it. In Dynasty, look, they're fine stashes in Dynasty. They cost you nothing. But don't view them anymore as stashes. Like, I'm seeing people drafting them in redraft like, oh, Jaleel McLaughlin's going to be my RB2 flex play. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's just not. Okay? All right. So anyway, that's where I'm at on the Broncos running back room. I really don't get it at all. Really at all. I just think that there's so much better value to be found. I mean, think about this. Like, Jaleel McLaughlin is going in the same range as like Tyler Algier. I mean, and it's like, sure, Tyler Algier's behind Bijan Robinson, but there's at least some upside there if there's an injury. Whereas, like, if anything happens to Estime or Javonte, like, it has to happen to both Estime and Javonte for McLaughlin. Like, I would just rather take a swing on, like, an actual upside handcuff. A Jaylen Wright, for example. How about Jaylen Wright? You're talking about another RB3, but actually on a good offense with a little bit more explosiveness, better draft capital. That's just where I'm at. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think there's better value to be had, especially at the running back position of fantasy football, because the Broncos offense is just not going to be good. The next bit of news we have for you from training camp, Tank Dell looks amazing. Tank Dell is out there. He looks good. And the cool thing is that Tank Dell is also being worked with special teams. Now, he did that a lot last year. He's doing punt returns, sometimes doing kick returns. So it was pretty, expected that they'd probably test him out there again. But the reason I'm talking about him being worked in special teams on a fantasy football show is not just for Scott Fishbowl. I think it just further brings home the point that Tank Dell is healthy. Because as we know, special teams, a lot of injuries happen on it. And I know now with the new rules, we're expecting less injuries because of the extra space and all that. But still, to hear that they are believing in Tank Dell to be healthy enough to be a kick returner already, I just think is really good news. And we're seeing him already connect a ton with CJ Stroud from some of the videos. And then the fact that they're using him in other facets just shows that the Texans believe he's healthy and believe in him as a playmaker. So that's really all. Just an extra confidence boost for you guys that have Tank Dell. Again, he is my favorite Texan wide receiver to draft right now because he's the cheapest. I really think all three should go basically back to back to back. I love Nico Collins. I love Stephon Diggs. And I love Tank Dell. And Tank Dell right now goes about a round later than those guys, so I'm taking that shot, especially since CJ Stroud has come out and said that Tank Dell is one of his top 3 receivers in the league, that CJ Stroud asked Tank Dell to be on the team. CJ Stroud trusts Tank Dell a ton. And I've talked about it time and time again. If you add up all the target shares from Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell last year, you only get to 75%. So that's still plenty of volume to go around for all 3 of those wide receivers. And they can get more than they got last year. Or picture this, they get the exact same and they're all 3,000-yard receivers, all 3, almost double-digit touchdowns. Like all 3 of these guys, there's so much volume to go around that even if they each get 25%, that's still only 75%. And that's more than what Tank Dell and Nico Collins got last year. They were both only about 22 and 22 each, whereas, Diggs was at 30. So again, it's just, there's so much to go around, even for Joe Mixon, even for Dalton Schultz. This is a pass-happy offense. These are great, talented wide receivers. Draft them all. And don't think about it. You're going to be happy. There's going to be spike weeks here and there for every single one. And I believe that they'll all have decent floors as well. Next bit of news, Daniel Jones. He is also expected to be ready to go. Now, this was a quote from him. This isn't a, cleared for contact news like Joe Burrow. But Daniel Jones was interviewed and said, hey, I feel good. I feel great. I feel like I'm going to be ready to go for camp. The Giants camp, of course, begins tomorrow. So we'll know for sure tomorrow. But it sounds pretty good. But I do just want to talk about Daniel Jones for a second, because I'm sure a lot of you have been watching this Hard Knocks with the New York Giants. He is not their long-term option. I don't care if he ends up playing well this year. They are moving on from him regardless. And so again, I say I am not really buying Daniel Jones in Dynasty. Now, I was buying him before the draft because I did not believe the Giants would draft a quarterback. We talked about it. I felt like he was a good buy. But post-draft, all the hype built up for him, and he became everyone's dynasty buy. And when a player is a dynasty buy for every single person in this space, that really means he's a sell. That means it's time to move on. We're always wrong. I'm not buying Daniel Jones because we're seeing now from this Hard Knocks stuff that they don't believe in him. They wanted Jayden Daniels. They wanted Drake May. They wanted to trade up. They were bringing in all of these quarterbacks, right? They're going to do the same thing next year, even if he plays well. They've cut their losses. They've already made the decision. It's very clear. And so again, I say I think Drew Lock is a very interesting stash in Superflex. I know it's disgusting and ugly and gross, but it's Daniel Jones we're talking about. And the tape is out there. It was very clear last year that he was not good anymore pre-injury. So anyway, the next bit of news is Sam Darnold is getting most of the first team snaps with the Minnesota Vikings. And I want to emphasize the majority, because JJ McCarthy is also being worked in on the first team. And this is really good news, because what we've all expected in the dynasty space right now is that Sam Darnold's probably going to start week 1, probably going to start week 2, and JJ McCarthy will take over. That's still probably the case, but, the New England Patriots have already come out and said that Jacoby Brissett's starting week 1. The Minnesota Vikings haven't done this. And to hear, of course, that Sam Darnold's getting the majority of snaps, that does, of course, fall in line with what we're expecting. But I did not expect to hear that JJ McCarthy will be getting some as well. So I do believe that that means that this is a competition. As much as we might not want to agree with that, it is a competition. And I still believe in JJ McCarthy. And I don't believe in Sam Darnold. Why would I? He hasn't done a single thing to make me believe in him. So I think that this is not good news for people that took Sam Darnold. I just don't. The fact that they're already starting to work in JJ McCarthy, I don't think is good news for Sam Darnold. Because the things that we do know about JJ McCarthy is that he is a quick learner, that he is pretty experienced in an NFL-style offense, and that he is athletic and talented. Those are all things that Sam Darnold has not proven yet. So I do believe that JJ McCarthy will, of course, beat out Sam Darnold. Will it be week 1? I don't know, but I do expect JJ McCarthy to start way sooner than later, and I have pretty much been step for step with that this whole offseason. I'm very excited to see how this plays out. And I don't think it's going to have to take much for JJ McCarthy to beat out Sam Darnold. It's like one highlight clip, really, of him just zipping it in to Justin Jefferson. Is just awesome. So anyway, I would keep your eyes on that. If you're managing Sam Darnold, I would almost offload him if you could. I think that you could probably get another backup quarterback. You could probably take Sam Darnold right now and get like Drew Lock in a third. And that might sound crazy right now. But, Sam Darnold's going to lose his job at some point. And I think that, Drew Lock, for example, has a chance to take over for Daniel Jones by the end of the season, just because they want to see what just a pocket passing quarterback looks like, because that's next year's class. That's where I'm at. So anyway, I think that's an interesting trade to look at right now. I think you should probably be moving on from Sam Darnold while he has a little bit of value, because I would not be surprised if JJ McCarthy takes over. So anyway, the next bit of news on the Vikings is that TJ Hawkinson is ahead of schedule right now. There's still not much information about there on the time frame for his return, but everything that we're hearing is that he's good. He's walking around. We saw him on the Minnesota Vikings schedule release meme video thing, but we're also now hearing reports that he is ahead of schedule and that he is doing really, really well in his rehab. This again just locks in line with what I've been saying in that TJ Hawkinson is way too undervalued. I don't get it. I don't understand how a guy who was on pace to be the tight end 1 last year can be like the tight end 14. I don't get it. I don't care that he might miss a few games and might be less than 100%. When the games matter most in our fantasy football season, he will be 100%. He's second in targets behind Justin Jefferson. He does and will be a better target earner and getter than Jordan Addison. And he's going to be awesome at a position that's hard to get elite production from. So yeah, you might have to start Tyler Conklin for the first few weeks of the season, but then you get to start TJ Hawkinson and you can get it for free. You can get it for free. And he's on the schedule. Get TJ Hawkinson everywhere you can. Dynasty redraft, just do it. You'll be happy. The next team to talk about is the Washington Commanders. Real quickly, Luke McCaffrey has solidified himself already as the wide receiver 3. Now, of course, this isn't too much of a surprise. There's not much competition on the team for that role, but it's just great to hear already the confidence from the team and great to see that he's locked in as that. We already kind of knew it, that he was probably going to be the slot receiver, but to just hear it come from the team, that's awesome. The next bit of news, we'll talk about the Packers. Jayden Reed has landed on the non-football injury list, although it is a football injury that he sustained. Kind of funny, Jayden Reed going on the NFI. I don't know if you know why, but this is why. Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst addressed various topics when talking to the media on Monday morning, including the latest on Reed. According to The Athletic's Matt Schneidman, Gutekunst said that the former Michigan State playmaker tweaked something while hosting a youth football camp and even joked that an 8-year-old beat him on a route. So it's just pretty funny. Jayden Reed got injured at a youth football camp while covering an 8-year-old, supposedly, or at least as a joke. Either way, injured at youth football camp. And so he has to go on the NFI list because it didn't happen at an NFL facility. But it was added that he won't miss much time. He's expected to make a complete recovery before the regular season rolls around. So really not a big story at all. It's just kind of interesting that he just got hurt at a youth football camp. But it's also not really like, it's just he tweaked something. We don't know what he tweaked. We'll hopefully find out. But it is strange. Also, Packers rookie running back, Marshawn Lloyd, has been out with a hip injury. Again, not much details out there about the severity of this hip injury, but again, I don't think it matters. You guys know this. I do believe that Josh Jacobs is the true bell cow for the Packers this year. Now, I do believe that Marshawn Lloyd is going to be ahead of A.J. Dillon on the depth chart and get in for some like explosive plays and stuff like that. But I really do expect Josh Jacobs to be a 70-75% type running back and maybe even more. Like I expect Josh Jacobs essentially to be run into the ground, and that Marshawn Lloyd was kind of brought in to soak up what he could and look to take over in 2024. It's not good news to hear he has a hip injury already, and hopefully it recovers quickly. Again, the severity of it is not really out there, but you need your hip to be a running back, and that's not good news. So if there's any, but I would say if there's any chance to buy low on him, do it because he is insanely athletic on a really good offense. The next player, Javon Baker. Javon Baker missed some rookie camp and some OTA stuff with a fractured thumb that has just come out. I don't think any of us knew about a fractured thumb, but he is expected to be go for training camp kicking off. They're either today or tomorrow. They are today. The Patriots are today. So look for some Javon Baker highlights. I think that those will be out there today at some point. And that is all I have from everything except before I went live, I did see some Jelani Woods hype. And who would I be if I didn't give you any Jelani Woods hype? Here is what Colts beat writer Nate Atkins has said about Jelani Woods. And listen to this, guys. It's great news. It is great news. The Colts have left their top tight end role open to Jelani Woods. And if his offseason work to reshape his lower half can create a sustainable year, he could break out in the biggest of ways possible with a play designer like Shane Steichen and a downfield quarterback like Richardson and a run-heavy, play-action-heavy offense. The top spot is going to Jelani Woods. We didn't have to wait long at all. He's the tight end 1 already. It's so exciting. You guys know how much Jelani Woods I have. It's ridiculous. I can't stop pressing the draft Jelani Woods button. I can't stop pressing the trade for Jelani Woods button. It's going to be awesome. We have not seen a tight end that athletic on a team like that in a very long time, really. It's going to be awesome. We saw over 800 yards and 11 touchdowns from the amalgamation of whatever the hell that Colts tight end room was last year. Jelani Woods has the upside, the athleticism, and the production that we saw from his rookie year to be the alpha in the room, and he's already got the top tight end spot on the depth chart. Let's fucking go. Let's go, Jelani Woods. Awesome news. So that's all I have for you from training camp. I have just a few more stories from you regarding contract talks, and then we'll get you out of here. Long ass episode for my return. But Ja'Marr Chase. Some news has come out about Ja'Marr Chase's contract extension. And Bengals owner Mike Brown has come out and said that they will bend over backwards to get a long-term contract for Ja'Marr Chase, and that they, of course, view Ja'Marr Chase and Joe Burrow as the franchise. It's great news. We already knew it was really going to happen, but the fact that the Bengals are that into Ja'Marr Chase is just awesome. Just adds a little bit more confidence that it really will be the Joe Burrow, Ja'Marr Chase show for their careers. And it also does make you get a little bit worried about T. Higgins. But again, we know that the Bengals are keeping the band together this season. We have to worry about T. Higgins next year. And again, don't worry about Jermaine Burton. Just don't worry about it. It's Mike Gesicki, I think, is the random upside play on this offense. But Ja'Marr Chase is really the value here. Ja'Marr Chase still has all the potential in the world to finish as the wide receiver 1. And he's going as like the wide receiver 3, sometimes 4. Sometimes 5. I mean, it varies in the room. Generally, it's wide receiver 3. But Bengals, Joe Burrow healthy. T. Higgins kind of on his way out. Like, Ja'Marr Chase has the potential to hit that 180 targets, 200 targets, like just go absolutely nuclear this year if he can stay healthy. And I love myself some Ja'Marr Chase. So great to hear that the Bengals will be bending over backwards to get a long-term contract for him. Rashid Shaheed has signed a 1-year extension for $5.2 million. I will say this. It's interesting. It's very interesting. And there's a lot of things to say about this, and we'll start here. Congratulations, Rashid Shaheed. As we know, I believe he was actually undrafted, but it might have been 7th round. I believe it was undrafted from like Weber State. Out of nowhere, this dude has come out and produced. His rookie season, 28 receptions for 488 yards and 2 touchdowns. And last year we saw 46 receptions for 719 yards and 5 touchdowns on top of a ton of special teams production. So, of course, this extension was due. His base salary was only going to be $900,000 this year. So, I mean, he got basically a 5 times increase, really like a 6 times increase from $900K to $5.2 million. But it's a little concerning to me, just slightly. I'm going to go slightly concerned because it's only $5 million. And given this wide receiver market, that is not that much. Really? Like, you would think, like, especially if they really do believe in him as their wide receiver too, they would probably try to hit at least that like 10 million mark. Because I mean, these wide receivers, like the high-end ones, they're making $20-30 million. And even the lower-end ones, like, I mean, we just saw Darnell Mooney. I mean, he's getting like $12 million a year. Gabe Davis, he's getting like $12 million a year. So I don't know if $5 million for 1 year is that great, especially considering that they are going to be relying on him in special teams more than likely. So, like, they're asking him a lot, but not really paying him a lot. At least we assume that they're asking a lot. It's possible that with them only investing $5 million into him, that they're really not investing a lot into him. But, you know, it might just be special teams. It might just be the receiver role. Who really knows? But also, it could be painted that this is a prove-it deal. Like, Rashid Shaheed came into the New Orleans Saints front office and was like, hey, I've produced for you. I deserve more than $900,000. I deserve to be paid near the market value of wide receivers of my production. And they were like, yeah, we do believe you deserve a raise. But, you know, you were undrafted. You know, it's only really been like 1 truly good season. You could argue 2, but 1 really, truly good season last year. So we'll give you this 1-year extension, but treat it as a prove-it deal. So that's another way to read into this. Either way, though, I would like to see a little bit more confidence from the Saints organization, given what he meant to them last year, was their deep threat and was pretty damn good at it as well. On top of being really, really good on special teams, this is a player who deserves more money if they really do believe in him like that and want to use him like that. So I would say right now I'm believing it as a prove-it deal. But if week 1 comes around and Rashid Shaheed's not the primary kick returner, I think we know why. They only paid him $5 million. Or if it comes out and it's week 1 and it's like Bub Means is now the deep threat because they drafted him this year with better draft capital than Rashid Shaheed, also a speedy deep threat guy, then we know why they only paid him $5 million. They view him as like a role player. He's going to be on special teams and catch some deep passes, but so will Bub Means, and Chris Olave is going to be leaned on. You know, it's going to be very interesting. I think we'll know a lot about Rashid Shaheed on week 1. Obviously still a really decent value. And, the people that like picked him up a couple seasons ago are still very much over the moon. And he's very, very talented. And I don't think he's going to lose any role or anything. I just found it interesting to note that he's still only being paid like half of what the wide receiver market truly values a player of Shaheed's caliber as. Example, again, Gabe Davis, $12 million a year. And while on the contract discussion here, Jordan Love, he is actually sitting out of training camps right now because he is waiting on his contract extension. But it is reported that sides are very, very close, and it is probably going to come within the next few days. So right now, the Packers are splitting quarterback duties between the rookie that they drafted and the guy from last year. It really doesn't matter. I probably should remember these guys' names, but I don't right now off the top of my head. It's something Clifford, I think. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. It's totally escaping me. But it doesn't matter. Jordan Love will be out there. He's going to be the starter. They're going to get this extension done sooner rather than later. But it is still some concern coming out for Tua, as Adam Schefter has come out and said that the sides are still not very close at all, really. Now, it is interesting because Adam Schefter did also say that the Dolphins do view him as the franchise quarterback, that they have already accepted that he is their long-term option. It seems that this is the basically the concern here on the contract. What's making this difficult for either side is the guarantees. Tua wants a lot of guarantees, as basically all the quarterbacks in today's market are getting mostly guaranteed contracts. And then the Dolphins, though, are seeing like, oh yeah, these concussion injuries, you have just injuries in general. We're a little bit worried about your long-term potential. So we don't want to give you a lot of guarantees, but we'll give you a long-term contract. That's where this seems to be right now. I'm not sure how they're really going to work this out. Like, that is very, very hard to work out when obviously a player is doing everything they can and injuries are kind of hard to prevent. Like, there's not much they can really do about it. Like, it sucks to be in Tua's shoes, to know that the team believes in you as their long-term option, but not enough to give you guaranteed money. I think there will be some sort of, in between here, but the contract is probably not going to be as great as Tua wants. Which could, of course, open the door for the Dolphins to be able to add some more talent around him, which could end up being a blessing in disguise. But either way, the deal is still not close, and Tua is probably growing more and more frustrated by the day, and I'm curious to see how this develops. So, guys, that is everything I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in, welcoming me back to Wake and Take. I'm excited to be back, excited to be talking more football with you guys every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern here on the Player Profiler, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you tune in tomorrow for some more Wake and Take. Have a terrific Tuesday and a wonderful rest of your week. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.